My colleague Jim Rubenstein and I, we wanted to look at auto production in Mexico. The question really was, it's been just over 2 decades since NAFTA came into play, and Mexico's auto sector has grown, and we wanted to take a harder look at the data to see what specifically has been going on. Well, first of all, we found out that production of vehicles in Mexico has increased tremendously. It went from about just under 1 million units in 1995 to just under 3.5 million units last year in 2016. That, if you translate into how many assembly plants does it take to make up all that extra volume, that corresponds to just about 10 additional plants. That's substantial growth in vehicle production. One question one could ask to the data, so who's behind this remarkable growth in vehicle production in Mexico in terms of the companies? And what we found was a little bit surprising to us, and it turns out that about 2/3 of the increase since '95 was driven by activities from overseas headquartered producers and not the companies headquartered in Detroit. And that surprised us a little bit. So the growth of output of automobiles in Mexico is driven by exports. Just a small portion of those vehicles go to the Mexican market. The vast majority is being exported. It averages about 80% since '95. And the major destination countries are north of Mexico. It's primarily the US and Canada, but not exclusively so. There are non-trivial exports of vehicles that go to Central and Latin America, as well as Europe, all the way across the ocean. One of the key takeaways is that Mexico's auto industry today can be described as being representative of a very open economy. Prior to NAFTA, what was typical, whatever was produced in Mexico in terms of automobiles was consumed and bought in Mexico. That is no longer the case. We've seen the production volume has gone up tremendously, but the majority of automobiles that are made in Mexico today are exported from Mexico to be sold somewhere else. Interestingly enough, the majority of vehicles that are sold in Mexico are also not made in Mexico. They're imported to Mexico. So these are two aspects of an economy being well integrated into the North American space.